another video by Stan's Auto Repair. Today I'm working on a 1999 Jeep Cherokee. This one's actually lifted. What do I have to do today is replace the water pump. The water pump is on its way of seizing up, and then I'll have another video on the power steering pump because one of the lines blew. You can kind of see the trail right there. It blew as soon as they brought the Jeep in and they went to turn it sharp. I think it's the high pressure line that blew. But we got to get to the water pump, which I believe is right here. Because here's your fan pulley. That there is the AC. Then we have your power steering pump here. All right, down there's the alternator. Let's see if I can get it. Yeah, right there's the alternator. Then, yeah, that's just your fan clutch right there. Down there is your camshaft pulley. And then that right there is your tensioner. So in order to get to the tensioner, we need to remove this electric fan, which I believe is broke. I might be able to fix it. If not, we'll just have to get another one. And then while I'm in here, just go ahead and check everything. But on the fan here, I will have to move it so I can get the pulley off. Hopefully that pulley comes off easy. I'll have to check the new pump. But yeah, that pulley is definitely going to have to come off. It's the only way I'm going to be able to access the bolt back there. And it looks like we got a bolt here. But I'm going to pull out the water pump. We do have it in the Jeep. That way I can make sure that this is the water pump. But 9 times out of 10 I believe it is, because here's the thermostat housing right here, and then you got your thermostat temperature sensor right here. So typically pretty much close, in my experience, it's been here without actually looking at the service manual. It shouldn't be too different than replacing it, say on the 4.6 liter V8 in a Thunderbird, because the water pump's pretty much right in the same position, except this is a Jeep. I'm not for sure what engine this is, but I believe in the 99 this is the standard engine, so that's that. All right, so I'm gonna go ahead and start working on getting this out, getting the belt off. Well, not off, but getting it off the pulley so I can actually get in there, remove those. But I'm probably going to break loose these 4 bolts here before I actually remove it, because that's one thing I did on the Thunderbird is I didn't break loose the bolts, so I had to put the belt back so I'd have that tension. But I'm going to go ahead and pause for here for now, and I will be back. Got the fan out. That bolt size is 5/16. It's a little 1/4 inch socket. Here's the bolts right here. I'm probably going to have to replace these bolts. They're kind of rusty, pretty bad. And these bolts here are 1/2 inch. I already got them loose. Now I just need to find out what size this is after I kind of clean that up. But that idler pulley is awfully rusty, so I'm gonna get some PB Blaster, spray it down, loosen this bolt, and get the rest of those off. And then once I get this pulley off, we'll move on. All right, y'all, got the 4 half inch bolts off there. I am gonna have to release the lower radiator hose. I'm probably gonna have to end up replacing that because that thing is hard as a rock. I do have here is the water pump, so I was actually correct in my assumption. which is right there. Comes with a new gasket, and if you're wondering, it is a Duralast brand. Part number is BWP724. We have a new radiator fan, which is Dorman product, which is 620001. Got some new wiper blades, 18-inch if you're curious. And then here is the new belt. It is a Continental, which is 4060895 or 6PK2275, depending on what. And all this came from AutoZone. So my next endeavor is getting this pulley off without damaging it. If not, if I can't get it off and I have to damage it, we'll just get us a new one. Because let me find the fan again and I'll show you. Where is it at? Oh, I swear I've seen it. Yeah, there's the Chrysler symbol. OEM. This is the original fan from '99. So, yeah, there's no fixing that. That thing's shot. The motor on it's actually busted inside. And then down there's the power steering. It looks like we're probably going to have to replace both lines. The return and the return line, and then the other line that goes into the steering box, due to the fact that, as you can see, it's awfully rusty. But now I'm gonna have to drain the fluid, which is not gonna be fun, being the fact that there's not enough room. Oh, I did have to remove the pulley for the belt tensioner. It's literally seized. I can't adjust it. It's that rusted on there. But it's 15mm bolt for up here and that bolt there. And this belt is really hard. So I'm going to get working on that. But I'm going to first try to see if I can pry that pulley off, whack it a little bit with my sledgehammer without damaging anything else. That way I can get in there and get to the, I think there's a sensor that goes into the back side right here, or else it's an inlet. Not for sure. But, and then we'll get, once I get the water pump off, we'll get a look-see. It doesn't look like that water pump's going to be too hard to get off. Because there's not much of a lip that it goes into, but I'm going to try my best not to damage it. And then here's that, and then I'll have to get some temp seal gasket, that way it doesn't slip off, and it kind of like helps it seal on there. But I'm going to get working on that, and I will be right back to you. And I'm really trying to make sure I get everything in focus on the camera this time, because sometimes I get carried away talking and showing, and I got the camera pointed at something completely different than what I'm actually doing. But that's what I'm going to work on now, and I'll see you in a bit. Real quick, got that off. Didn't even damage it at all. It was actually, about 4 or 5 hits, and it popped right off. I used my sledgehammer. But what I did is I had one hand turning it, and I was just tapping it with my sledgehammer. And then it popped right off. So that's good. I'm going to clean up the inside here. And then I'm going to make sure this pulley's not damaged anywhere, because and same thing with this idler pulley. It seems kind of loose, so I'm going to see about getting another one. The customer having to get another one, since most of the stuff on this Jeep is OEM. Oh, move the hammer because I don't need it now. But as we can get looking in there, yeah, there's a hose that actually runs into there. That's a heater hose. Okay, so that's one of the heater hoses, and we have 1, 2, 3, 4. So we'll look up here. You got, those are the power steering bracket bolts. Then you have this bolt here, then you have, and then 2 down there and 1 on the other side. So, and it looks like the water pump goes in that angle. So, yep, I see the bolt right there. Let me point. what I do with that screwdriver. Let's see. Here's the breaker bar. Ah, right there in front of my face. So we got a bolt here, right there. Then there's a bolt here, 2 bolts here, and then 1 bolt here. And those, I'm guessing, are probably 1/2 millimeter. Let me find my 1/2 millimeter socket. Did I lose it? Nope, I didn't lose it. It's right here. So, okay, those are 1/2 millimeter. And then these ones right here are probably 15s. If I can. Yep. And then those 2 bolts there are 15s. So I'm going to get cracking on these and getting these off. I do have a bucket underneath right there. Catch what I can. I do need to go get another bucket. So I'm going to do that. Kind of that way I can make sure I can catch most of this as possible. All right. The top bolt here is a 15 millimeter. The bottom bolt is a 13 millimeter. And then I believe the rest are halves. If they're not, I will give a correction on that. All right. Thank you much. Oh, and if anybody's wondering what the belt diagram looks like, that's exactly how it goes in the vehicle. Power steering, pulley, power steering, pulley, crank, water pump, alternator, AC. Oh, and then that loop right there is the fan clutch. My bad. I'm gonna correct myself yet again. Get some light. Okay, those 2 bolts right there. Let me get the tool before it falls. Lord have mercy, I got tools everywhere. Okay, these 2 bolts, this one and this one, are 15. This bolt on the water pump are actually 14. They're 1/2 inch or 14. So depending on what socket you have, these are 1/2 inch or 14, and these are 15s. I couldn't, I don't really have a socket that fits on that. That's actually metric. But again, 14, 1/2 inch, or this is 15. All right. So I got all these cracked loose. I already went ahead and did that just in case I had any problems. Now I need to get a smaller flathead and loosen the lower radiator hose. And since I'm going ahead and draining the coolant, I might as well, no. Yeah, the upper radiator hose is okay. But anyways, I'll probably have him get a new upper radiator hose, because typically when you replace the lower one, you also want to do the upper one. And we might as well get a thermostat. Might as well. I mean, it won't hurt anything. It actually, typically in my book, it's always a requirement when I do a water pump, do a thermostat, engine flush, and both hoses. Because you got to pretty much take all this stuff apart. Anyways, the radiator has been replaced. That's the only reason why I didn't opt to have him get a new radiator. But, all right. I'm going to get back to work here and talk to y'all soon. Hey, everybody. Okay, water pump's off. Quick tip. Take your bolts as you take them off and put them in the new radiator. I mean, water pump, not radiator. That way you don't misplace them just in case you end up doing something else. But I did need to take off the thermostat housing because it definitely needs cleaned up. Because I noticed that the antifreeze that's in it is not pure antifreeze. It's actually more water than antifreeze. As you can kind of see it there, that's not really green. So that actually has water in it. And the gasket on the water pump was actually leaking. Here's the old water pump right here. And it is actually an OEM part. And the guy that owns the Jeep was actually complaining of grinding noises. Turns out it's the alternator. Let's see, yeah. As you can see, that alternator looks quite old. I believe it's probably original equipment, but I cannot even turn the alternator by hand, and you should be able to. See, like that clutch there, the power steering pump I can move by hand, that I can move by hand. So that just goes to tell me that that grinding noise is the alternator, and it's actually locked up, and I'm surprised it actually charges. So that would explain the belt. Well, the belt being hard too, that doesn't help much. But other than that, so while I'm at it, I'm gonna get the hose. I'm gonna flush the heater core out. I'm gonna flush the block. But I'm gonna wait until we actually get some antifreeze, because while there's antifreeze in there, I don't want to do water because it actually gets freezing at night. So I'm gonna go ahead and let this drain some more, and then I'm gonna have to talk to the owner to see what all he wants to do, because I do recommend he gets that alternator changed, because it could lock up and snap a brand new belt, and that's the last thing I want to do. And we also need to change these hoses here. These are going to be fun. I'm hoping I don't have I'm hoping I can get those out without having to get a new gearbox, because that's the last thing I want to do. So I'm gonna have to soak those down first, clean them off, get all that rust and stuff off down there, and then spray them down. But that's going to be a separate video, and the alternator will also be a separate video. But removal, I did have to tap the top of the water pump with my sledgehammer to get it off. But make sure you clean around here really good. Same thing on the thermostat housing. I'm going to check the thermostat, but I believe it's still good. But anyways, these are your heater hoses. This is your upper heater hose. That's your lower heater hose. And you always do a backward flush. So you would do from the lower and then flush it. That way, and I'm going to do that because you might as well, when you do this, you might as well do heater core flush and everything. But I got the hoses down there. They both, upper and lower, both need changed. They're both old, quite old. The upper is way too soft, and the lower was super hard. You can't even squeeze the lower one. It's that hard. So that thing was probably going to bust any day. And this pulley, it seems good. I'm just going to re-grease it. Grease it up real good, and that should be fine. This is the tensioner, which is right here. It's actually connected to the power steering pump by 3 bolts, 3 14mm bolts that you could get off with a one of those over there. I just happen to not have the size I need. I go from 12 to 15, go figure. But that's going to end the video here, and I will be back later on. I'm not for sure how fast this will be, because we do need to order some parts, but removal is the same as, and the installation is just reverse of removal. Thank you all for watching. And remember, if it's broke, fix it. And you'll have a blessed day.